0 to unanimously deny request PE 2223-1 for unpaid leave. Right, well, patriotic exercise. We have a couple of students. Anybody see the students maybe in the parking lot? Do a quick check. Stop. No, okay. Well, who would like to lead the patriotic exercise? Tim Ryan. Excellent.
Love to.
Do you like the picture?
Okay, ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call. Dan?
Present.
Doug?
Present.
Elizabeth? Present. Lisa? Present. Lawrence here. Item 8, approval of today's agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda or any requests for edit? I'll make a motion to approve the agenda. Thank you, Elizabeth. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Dan, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Number 9, approval of minutes from June 14, 2022. I think all the corrections that needed to be made. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from June 14, 2022?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from June 14, 2022.
Thank you, Lisa. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Doug, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Public statements related to agenda items. At the discretion of the Board of Trustees, the public may address the board on non-agenda items and/or agenda items. If you choose to make a public statement, you must be present at the meeting and complete the blue request to address the Board of Trustees form and provided to the superintendent's assistant. Please note that comments are limited to 3 minutes. The board president may increase or decrease the time allowed for public presentation, depending upon the topic and number of persons wishing to be heard. If your comment is on an item that is not on the agenda, then you will be asked to speak during the public statements related to non-agenda topics at the end of the meeting. If your comment is on an item that is on the agenda, then you will be called on to speak at the time of the agenda item. All right, next to our statement of principle. No statement? Okay. Yeah, I mean, you
Mrs.
don't have,
Dukakis, was there a statement from the principal at this meeting? I don't think there is.
that's fine.
They're just getting back. We want to give them that.
Yeah,
a little bit of
that's
a-
right. All right, the statement of our superintendent.
So just in brief, everything's off to a good start. I've been to every school except McKinley. I haven't been able to make it over to McKinley. All the new curriculum is in. We had a couple of concerns that a couple of items were missing, but it's all started to come in. All the supplies are in, everything is clean. Construction went on schedule this summer. Lots of construction going on, and every school I go to, there's already people back setting up the classrooms, even though we don't open until the 25th, and just sort of planning things and hanging out. It's exciting. It's particularly exciting that our focus right now is not on emergency preparedness or a budget catastrophe. We are just really enjoying the idea that we have a regular school year ahead of us, and it's something that we haven't had in almost 3 years. So it's just a very nice feeling. I'm not going to call it normal yet because we haven't quite gotten there yet, but it's been really, really wonderful. Enrollment has stayed stable and folks continue to move in. We're still getting registrations in, so things are in a little bit of fluctuation, but pretty stable.
Thank you. We'll move on to statements of board members.
See all of you again. I just, oh, right, first. I know, I first want to just extend my deepest condolences to Principal. We want to extend our deepest condolences to Principal Coleman's family, her friends, her colleagues, and the entire Washington community. Cristin was a very magnetic person. We all loved touring Washington with her. She took so much pride in the wonderful work being done there, and it was evident how much she cared and loved for your community. Loved your community. She'll be deeply missed, and I know we are all looking forward to seeing the presentation tonight on the Mural project honoring Cristin. I also want to extend a warm welcome to all of our new teachers and staff and administrators, and welcome back to all of our returning folks. This is going to be a great year. We have a new math curriculum, a new science curriculum, and we will fall into our second year rhythm with our social science and literature curriculum. I want to appreciate that many of our teachers and staff and administrators have selected to participate in professional development over the summer, ranging from topics of professional learning communities to the science of reading. Our summer academy teachers worked well in the summer with very little time off. Our district office was pretty much here nonstop, and everyone will soon spend their days working on the new curriculum together. It's going to be a very exciting year ahead. Also, a big hearty welcome to all of our new students and families.
Thank you. Elizabeth?
Yeah, I also want to say it's great to see you all and to see you here. And looking forward to this new year and hearing what is going to be happening. Also looking forward to touring the Jefferson district with Tim. And thank you for being so flexible. Really appreciate that. And on a personal note, I wanted to say how deeply saddened I am. I can only speak for myself, of course, but losing Cristin is a huge loss to our community, and she's one of the most incredible people I have ever met. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. I also wanted to just express my excitement for the new year and focus on education. Chris, sounds great. We're all a little tired of the public health focus. We'll do what we need to do, but very excited to start the new year. I enjoyed a little time away from school and in Burlingame, and excited to come back and get back to work. Did very much enjoy the tour of the workforce housing project at Jefferson Elementary School District in San Bruno. Tim Ryan was kind enough to set up an opportunity for many of the board members to tour a facility that was built on school property, surplus school property, partly bond funded, as a mechanism to provide, basically housing at 50% of market value to teachers and staff, and as a recruiting tool for a district that doesn't have the funds to pay salaries that some of their neighbors do, but they're now able to offer this benefit to teachers and staff. So that was very useful, I think, for me personally to see that project and learn more about it. And thanks to Tim and the folks at the district who walked us through there. So thank you.
It was the high school district, right? Jefferson High
Oh,
School.
I'm sorry, high
Yeah.
school.
Thank you. I also pass along my condolences to Cristin Coleman's family and friends in the community. And then look forward to a good year. And as far as this summer, I want to thank Tim Ryan for all the work he does every summer. A lot of people don't realize he's on a time crunch every summer to get everything done before the school year starts, and when it ends and when it starts, and get all the contractors lined up and working and finished on time. It's a tough job. So thank you, Tim.
Thank you, and I echo all the sentiments that my fellow board members have stated already. And I hope we have a great school year. We're starting off really positive, and hopefully it stays that way. Mostly for our students, they really deserve to have, like a normal school year. And I look forward to our site visits that we do to see how it all goes. All right. Let's move on to our consent agenda. Does anybody want to pull anything off the consent agenda to discuss? If not, is there a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda?
I move to approve.
Thank you, Dan.
I'll second.
Thank you, Lisa. All those in favor?
Aye.
Item 15, administration on Washington mural project honoring Cristin Coleman.
Great, thank you, President Wong. We have a couple of members of the we have a couple members of the Washington community to present the idea that I forwarded to the board. And Ms. Tiktakis, I'm not sure if you can pull up the actual image of the mural so that folks watching this as our record can sort of see. There we go. The proposed mural. So Stephanie is going to just talk to us about the inspiration. I know that folks were discussing some of Cristin's wishes. I made sure, and actually the mural is very much in line with that, specifically that her picture and name not be used in the mural. She was very, very clear about that. She did not want the school site to become a memorial of any sort. She wanted it to be inspirational. And so when I saw this, I was like, yeah, I can tell she saw this. So very much appreciate Stephanie being here. I could have read what she wrote, but I thought it would be more impactful to hear from Stephanie because she actually understands the different aspects that she can bring to the board. Thank you for being here.
Of course, thank you. I think you need to flip the mic.
Just a little bit closer to you. There you go. There you go.
First of all, thank you so much for allowing me a few minutes of your time this evening. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Stephanie Garcia, and I'm a first and second grade teacher at Washington. It feels like a great privilege to have been part of Washington for so many years so far, and I'm very excited for the next year. I'm especially honored to be here this evening. Thank you. On behalf of the Washington community and the BSC family at large, a project our site has been working on this summer to celebrate our dear principal and colleague, Cristin Coleman. I practiced this like 50 times and got here. I have no tunes, but here we are. When we first started to brainstorm the greatest way to honor Cristin, it seemed there was only one very obvious way to do so, to approach it from the perspective of how Cristin's time as a wildcat could be used as inspiration for and a celebration of the Washington community. If you knew Cristin, you would likely understand this is exactly what she would hope to achieve. So the idea of the mural was born. What you're seeing on the screen is concept art for a mural we have named The Lead, a reminder to carry Cristin's mantra forward with us as we move into tomorrow. Towards the bottom half of the mural, you will find values, different core beliefs that wildcats hold near to our hearts. These are values Cristin encouraged and promoted during her time with us at Washington. Our school is a place where creativity is welcome, and Cristin used hers and encouraged us to apply ours as a means of problem solving and challenging the status quo, always with the intention and the perspective that change brings the opportunity for growth and improvement. Cristin would remind us that simply doing anything in the name of, well, that's how we've always done it, wasn't reason enough to continue. She challenged those around her to embrace other different approaches to reflect the constant ebb and flow of the ever-changing world around us. Cristin believed in teamwork as a primary building block of our community. She encouraged teachers to build meaningful relationships with families at her school, to always work together as allies. She supported us in working smarter, not harder, as a staff, that more minds would provide a good, healthy perspective. She encouraged our learners to lift each other up and to engage in exploration alongside one another. When we work as a team, that's Washington at its very best. At Washington, a celebration of differences and the acts of inclusion are always at the forefront. And these were efforts Cristin supported from the moment she arrived, whether that was providing a handful of teachers hoping to form a team on equity and justice, the resources,
or space they needed, or gifting a special stuffy to a student who was feeling uncomfortable. For celebrating the holiday, the majority did not. Cristin made it a priority to hold space for these movements to unfold at our school, to ensure that above all else, each Wildcat, student, teacher, staff member, or guardian felt safe and seen at our home away from home. There is an explanation for each of the images you see on the bottom half of the mural. I painted a picture of only a handful. As previously mentioned, each image represents a core value of Washington. And as you look towards the top of the mural, you'll notice a whimsical scene of stars and sparkles, the culmination of putting those values into effect. Cristin prioritized these values each day she stepped onto campus. And with the Wildcat community behind her, we put each of these values into action and together created an incredibly special place. And so with Cristin in our hearts today and always, we believe as strongly as ever the magic that is Washington School. And there you have it, a mural project inspired by and dedicated to Cristin Coleman, a leader whose impact and contributions are invaluable, immeasurable, and extraordinary. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Did anyone want to make a comment before we vote?
Beautiful.
You want to make a comment?
No, no, I,
Okay.
no, I don't think I can.
Okay, so we're going to vote on this now. Would someone like to make a motion to approve the Washington Mural Project honoring Cristin Coleman? Make a motion to approve the Washington Mural Project. Thank you, Elizabeth. A second,
I'll second.
and all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Thank you. It's so exciting to see. It's fun.
Thank you for.
All right. Move on to item 16, education, A, equity and diversity resolution number 2022-/23-2.
Yep. Marley, okay? Or you want to go?
No, I'm good, thank you. Thank you, good evening. President Wong and trustees, I bring forward this evening our equity and diversity resolution to be read by the board. This equity and diversity resolution is the first resolution we bring forward every year and is important as we stand on these beliefs throughout the year. And we talk about it throughout the year. We talk about it, it hangs at every one of our school sites. It hangs on the front door of our district office, and it talks about the celebration of each of our students and each of our staff and the core beliefs of our community. And I bring it forward for you tonight to read and to acknowledge and bring forward for a vote.
Okay, would anybody here like to read the resolution? Yes.
This is the equity and diversity resolution number 2022-2023-3. Whereas the strength and richness of our community is in its diversity, the Board of Trustees affirms its commitment to continuing the district's systematic efforts to build a society free of hatred, bigotry, and racism. Whereas equity and equality are not interchangeable terms, the concept of educational equity goes beyond formal equality, where all students are treated the same, to foster a barrier-free environment where all students, regardless of background, have the opportunity to benefit equally. We believe that equity must be measured by access and outcomes. Whereas the Burlingame School District Board Policy 0410 outlines the commitments to non-discrimination based on gender, sex, race, color, religion, ancestry, national origin, ethnic group identification, marital or parental status, physical or mental disability, sexual orientation, or the perception of one or more of such characteristics. While this policy addresses the intentional inequities, we will not ignore the unintentional creation of inequity. We recognize there are historic and ongoing societal causes of inequity, and we are firmly committed to the success and well-being of all Burlingame children. Whereas our district data shows that not all students are achieving at their full potential, we assert that assessing the disparities in educational access and opportunity are the responsibility of every adult in the Burlingame School District and not the responsibility of our children. Inequality and outcomes will be assessed throughout the implementation of systemic structures to support all students within our school system. Now therefore be it resolved, with these commitments in mind, the school board of the Burlingame School District expects that every student will be provided with equitable access to high quality and culturally relevant instruction, curriculum, support facilities, and other educational resources, even when this means differentiating resources to accomplish this goal. Multiple pathways to success will be created in order to meet the needs for each of our students and shall actively encourage support and expect high academic achievement from all students uniformly. Practices and policies led to both the overrepresentation of students from some ethnic groups and students of low socioeconomic status in areas such as special education, and the underrepresentation in programs will be critically examined and modified. Finally, all staff and students will be provided with the opportunity and education needed to understand identity with regards to gender, ethnicity, parental status, ability, religion, or sexual orientation, and the connection between identity and the disparate impacts of both contemporary and historic practices in education and society as a whole on our students.
Thank you. All right, so this is up, we need to vote on this, right? Is there a motion to approve the equity and diversity resolution?
Make a motion to approve the equity and diversity resolution.
Thank you, Lisa. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Doug, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
On to 16B, California Healthy Kids Survey Report.
Hi there, good evening. I'm happy to be here. My name is Nate Long, and I'm going to present data from the California Healthy Kids Survey that was taken in the spring of 2022. So this was taken in April. Okay, so the California Healthy Kids Survey. It's a yearly assessment that we give to our grade 5 and grade 7 students. For grade 5, there is a core module plus a what's called a 2K module for tobacco use prevention education. The fifth grade survey took around an average of 15 minutes this year. The grade 7 assessment was the core module plus a school climate module, and those together took around an average of 21 minutes for each student. So what is it used for? It is required for the tobacco use prevention education for 2K grant, which is biennial. It's also used in our LCAP planning and assessment. It's used for a new grant called the Learning Communities for School Success Program, or LCSSP grant, which focuses on chronic absenteeism. And it also guides program development for our mental health collaborative, which consists of our counselors, our counselor interns, our school psychologists, and our psychologist interns. Okay. So next, looking at our response rates. So first of all, in order for our data to be considered valid, we need to have about a 70%, or we need to have above a 70% response rate. So this year for 5th grade, we had an 81.7% response rate, which is a decrease from the previous year, which was 84%, but still well above 70%. And for 5th grade, parents and guardians must provide consent, which we gathered through DocuSign this year. For grade 7, 100% of our students participated in the survey, which is an increase from 88% from the previous year. And all students participate in the 7th grade survey unless parents opt out. So this is an opt-out survey. All right. So here's an example of one of the metrics, and in the next slide I'll show you several metrics, but this is just a breakdown of one of them so you can understand how they're made up. So this is school connectedness, which we're particularly interested in. It consists of 5 different items, which are listed at the top. So do you feel close to people at or from the school? Are you happy to be at or with the school? Do you feel like you are part of the school? Do teachers treat students fairly? Do you feel safe at school? And the response choices are no, never, yes, some of the time, yes, most of the time, yes, all of the times. And for this metric, when we're measuring in the affirmative, we're taking answers that are yes, most of the time, or yes, all of the time. So it's a little bit hard to see, but I color coded it here to kind of give you a better overview. So we have data from going all the way back from 2017, which is our baseline. So that's in white, that column there. And then an improvement in the metric is shown by the color green. No change from the previous year is blue. And red is a decrease in that metric. And some metrics, some metrics we would like to go, the number to go up, and some we would like to go down. And these are all percentages here of student responses. So we have 5 main categories here: school engagement and support, school safety, school disciplinary environment, and substance use. Any questions about this before we move on?
I have a question. When I look at a statistical number, it corresponds then to the previous slide and the answer choices of no, never, yes, some of the time, yes, most of the time, yes, all the time.
Yeah, good question. Yes, for the most part. So for instance, just picking one, social emotional learning support. That means what is that? 80% of students felt that yes, most of the time, or yes, all of the time they were receiving.
So the number I see corresponds to the yes, all of the time?
And yes, most of the time, both of those. Yeah.
Okay, so how are the no's represented? Just by the missing percentage?
But by the amount of answers that were either no, no, never, or yes, some of it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Did that?
So the percentages are the percentage of students that said yes most of the time, or yes some.
Yeah, so
The top
therefore
2
you're
answers.
correct that the rest of the answers would make up the.
Okay.
And so the anything in red is showing relative
Decline in that.
a decline in that
year
metric,
before.
right, from the year
Yes.
before, but it's also, so I know you said, there are some things where you actually want the child to say that they don't have that happening to them. But the way the percentage is working out is that it reflects what we want to see, right? So like, if we see greens, that means good, right?
Correct.
Okay, so it's not like how many cigarettes do you smoke and it's like more, you don't want it to go up.
We
So
want it to
we're
go
not
down.
seeing
Exactly.
green to reflect it up in something we don't want.
Yeah, it's a positive outcome.
Yes,
as
so it's
opposed
the
to-
outcome we want to
Right.
be reflected in.
Yes, thank you. That's a better way to say it.
And-
Yes.
And sorry, go ahead.
I just want to point out though, that where you see a green, it's most likely reflective of one of the best responses we've seen over the time of the survey. It's red just means a decline from the prior year. It doesn't mean it's necessarily bad as an average for the state.
Right. Exactly. It's not a comparison to anyone but ourselves from the previous year.
What time of year was the survey conducted?
So this was conducted in April of
Okay, of each year.
20, well, actually, let me clarify this. I forgot to mention this. So this last year, we administered the survey in April. But right before we went to distance learning, so in 2019 through 20, which would be reflected by the 2020 number or year column, that survey was actually administered in December of that year. So just prior to
Before COVID.
just exactly. So before lockdown by a few months. We did then go into lockdown after March 13th of that following year in 2020. And then we went into hybrid learning, meaning that half the students were on campus at a time and they switched off asynchronous and in person in February of 2021. And then DIS came back full time with a little bit of asynchronous, I believe, in April, the end of April, I think it was the 26th of 2021. And the elementaries came back full time with a little bit of hybrid on May 3rd, 2021. So the survey for that year, for the previous year, for 2021, was actually administered during hybrid learning, just after the students had come back from hybrid. It was administered in March, in mid to late March.
And the students take the survey in school.
Yes. There was an option there to take it online, or well, it's all taken online in school, but there was an option to take it remotely. We were able to administer it all in the hybrid model.
So Nate, for clarification, in 2020, they took it in December of 2019
That's
for the 1920 school year, so 3 months prior to closing down for COVID. So that was before COVID was really being talked about, right?
That's correct.
And then in the 21-22 school year, 2021 school year, they took it about a month after they came back and they were in hybrid. Is that, I want to make sure that I
Yes.
understood those dates.
That's
correctly.
correct.
So they took it in, did you say March?
March, yes, so almost exactly a month after they came back.
After they came back,
Yes.
okay, so they've been back about a month, so when we're looking at fifth grade, this is fifth grade, so when we're looking at fifth grade, so when they're saying they feel safe in school, they've been back in school with about half their peers in a hybrid learning situation
For a month.
for about a month at that time.
Right, and so, right, that's correct, and so, you know, we do see a lot of, a lot of green there, which is great, but also, things such as school safety, a lot of students might have equated to things like washing their hands or wearing a mask or using hand sanitizer, so it kind of, it's interesting, it's a different lens that you kind of have to look at it through, with this data.
Although for the school safety part, is it pretty specific? Do you feel bullied at school? Do you? Oh, but feel safe at school?
Yeah.
It's a whole bunch of questions.
Yes,
And they use that,
right. Yeah, so each of these metrics you see here are multiple.
And then you said this earlier, but I didn't catch it. Why is 2017 white?
That's our baseline, so that's the first year of data.
Yeah, and so the students who were 100% remote, they took it while they were at home.
They could have, I don't think any of our 100% remote took it. You can see our participation rate, sorry, was only 76% in 2020 and 84% in 2021. So I think in 2020, there was no one remote, actually, sorry, yeah, that's correct. So the 2020 column was taken in 2019 before lockdown, so no one was remote. And 2021, it's hard for me to tell. I can't tell if that's.
Did we operate to the students that stayed home on independent study for the rest of the year?
We would have to look, and we can't just segregate it down to like Nate Wong at Washington took it, so we would be able to figure that out. But we'd have to look to see if we could offer it that way. I'm not sure if we could figure.
I think if we were allowed to.
Okay.
Yeah, I know that.
So we'd have to look to see if we had any that did it that way.
Right.
It looks like the survey had questions specific to, are you in school, are you at home? There was a difference.
So we'll have to look back and see
Yeah,
if
yeah.
we can pull that out.
Yeah, it's a good question.
Are the grade 5 and grade 7 survey questions the same?
No, they're not actually, which is interesting. So they're tailored to the age group specifically, but it does make it a little bit difficult to track across cohorts because you don't have apples to apples in terms of metrics. And I'll show you the last slide or the last slide with data is the latest cohort that we have.
Could you? Okay, would you be able to tell us what the question was for alcohol or drug use lifetime under substance abuse? I got a 26%.
Sure. So that is lifetime. It could be a sip or two of wine at dinner once. So it's
Witnessing or partaking?
partaking. So taking even one sip of wine at dinner at your grandma's birthday once was supposed to be a yes.
So 26% said yes to that question,
Yes.
or most of the time. And so how would, they would still answer yes most of the time, even if they did it once?
No, so this is just a yes or no.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, I know I'm jumping the gun, but on grade 7, when asked about alcohol or drug use, it's a 1% answer.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, so that's what I can't give you a concrete answer as to why. This is, keep in mind, this is not the same cohort. So this is not the same kids. I couldn't really tell you why well, part of it too is the definition is different on this metric. This is not lifetime, this is within the last 30 days.
okay, so it's a radically different question.
Right. But you'll see there's a discrepancy in terms of the cohort later on. But yeah, it's a completely different question.
So that for the 7th grade, the point of the survey is starting to identify what percentage of your population is using regularly or recently, right? So instead of 26% have tried alcohol at some point in their life, you could, I guess, surmise that 1% are using within the last how many days? 30 days, which indicates maybe with some regularity.
So that I guess would lead us into our 7th grade data here. So same thing applies. As you can see, most of the metrics are similar, not identical necessarily. And then of course the substance use this is different. This is within the last 30 days. For anything that says current, and I think any is, these are all current. So within the last 30 days. Chronic sadness at the bottom there is a yes most of the time, or yes all of it.
So one of the questions that's already been asked is how does this compare to schools in the county or throughout the state? So those results have not been publicly published. I believe we've had access to them, and
yes,
and everybody is after COVID seeing similar things. And those statewide results will be released later this year.
Yeah, we have some of the data, but it's not all on the public dashboard yet. Some of it only goes back there. Some of it only goes up to 2019.
The most recent report you can get is 2021, right?
So this, so we received this data from the state test or state survey people. This is not publicly released on the dashboard. It's just like our CASP data or LPAC data, or even the data on our LCAP. It's all from the previous year. So in the same way, but it's we want to share this with you and keep it current as much as possible. This will end up on the dashboard. This will be sent. This has been sent to school sites, so the principals can use it for their citizens.
I have a question for district office. One of the biggest numbers I see is different is under school safety, school perceived as safe or very unsafe, went from 77% to 53%. Is that safe in terms of, well, I might get COVID, safe as in they would push me?
I don't think the questions are explicit enough to identify what this is all about perception, right? So this is as a child determines themselves feeling safe or unsafe within the broad scope of the question. And that's just the result. So I don't think, well, I know there's not there's a direct correlation between the fact that our public superintendent of public instruction, as well as the state and all the newspapers have been talking about social emotional well-being and connectedness post-COVID statewide, and why that's really becoming a push. And that is because this type of result is statewide. This is something that we are concerned about our kids. So the academic, it turned out, which is what everybody was worried about during COVID, particularly the first year and a half or so, ended up being less of the concern than the social, emotional, and connectedness. It's also ironic, though, isn't it, to see that when did folks maybe feel the safest, not just in the first couple of weeks last year when they came back, but after, they hadn't been around other kids for in some cases over a year, but their chronic sadness was much higher because they hadn't. So the interesting interplay between these dynamics, and then we were seeing in school 2 years plus loss of that sort of ability to navigate social settings with their peers. In other words, a lot of stories of eighth graders that were still acting like elementary kids. And frankly, they had not been in a school environment. So some of these things you would sort of guess based on the age that these impacts did happen. So I think we're going to need another year or two to see where they trend after COVID. Now, that's my assessment. I don't know, Marla, or Nate, you feel about that, but that's my reading at this point.
Yeah, I agree, and this is something that, we've been talking about. I'm going through my emails from the last couple of years, doing research for this. So many emails coming out from my mental health team and our mental health collaborative. And I just wanted to point out that something we've done over the past 4 years has been, we've gone from 2 counselors to 5. We've added 2 counselor interns. We've gone from 2 intern psychs or psych interns to 3. And we've gone and we've added care solace as a service to our district. So that's for our teachers as well as our families. So these are all things that have been top of mind for us in the last few years. This is over the last 4 years. And care solace, I believe we added last year. So certainly mental health has been top of mind even before the pandemic, but especially during and now.
And I just want to make a comment, especially since we have a lot of new board members, that the issue of chronic truancy has been something our district has been looking at even, pre-COVID. And we were making gains on it. And it's just really sad that, clearly because of the pandemic, it went from 2% to 11%. And I tell you, the sad thing is that's not that bad. I mean, some districts that are enormous have like 50% in chronic truancy. I mean, it's really shocking.
Yeah, the San Francisco report just came out on the 33. So now here's the other thing that's interesting. We've had conversations because this counts as chronic truancy, right? So what is chronic truancy? What are the number of days missed now where it's considered chronic?
10% moving target.
Right, so 10%, 180 days of instruction, so 18 days. But yet it's becoming more and more common for us to have parents taking their kids out for a month at a time to go back to, so for a very common one, the Lincoln community is to go back to Turkey at the end of the school year, at the beginning of the school year. So just parents taking out and maybe neglecting to sign up for independent study or not sharing it with us that they're leaving has actually caused this to go up. And it's actually become more okay since distance learning for parents to feel like, yeah, we can just take our kids in and out. We're seeing that more. So that's also different. It used to feel like it was more of it was more harmful. And now it seems almost like, yeah, it's fine that they're used to going in and out. So,
and days when kids are out sick or isolating at home, that those don't count as.
Those don't count,
Those
right?
don't
Those
count.
are excused,
Yeah.
but it is a moving target. So if they take 5 days off in the first 30 days, then that's considered chronic truancy at the beginning of the school year. So that 10% is moving throughout the year.
So
rolling percentage.
yeah.
And I will add that we successfully applied, we joined a consortium of districts. This was spearheaded by the San Antonio Union School District. And the consortium is made up of them, us, Millbrae, San Bruno, and San Mateo. Also City has their own program, but we've hired 3 social workers to target specifically chronic absenteeism at the high schools and their feeder schools. And that's called the LCSSP. The grant was listed on the first.
When did that start?
That's starting, that's beginning now, actually. So
But you mean it just formed?
it just,
Okay.
Starting this year.
Okay.
So
So
Nate
we-
was just on the interview panel to hire
Yeah.
them. They'll be working with Burlingame.
just about a
Great.
month ago. Yeah. So
Yeah.
this is very neat.
So I would say for me, like the things that stood out when I read through the report that I could see online, the 2021, were the disparities in race and gender from all these questions. So I think, I was wondering if like, because we can't really see this doing, like in next year, could we have that broken down on our current data, or are we not able to see that?
This is disaggregated in the reports that we receive this.
I mean, like when we have the same report next year, can we see the current data based on
In the slide.
Oh, yeah, yes.
Yep.
That's
That's available to the public when it becomes released online.
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah, because I'm just getting this from public words.
Yeah, so when they release the data publicly, you'll be able to click, and it actually goes down to school level as well as disaggregated by different subgroup, as long as it's a significant subgroup, so you can actually look. The way that it's released to us, it's still embargoed except for we're giving you the overview, but
Okay,
the
so that's
entire thing will be released and you'll be able to.
So we're
drill down
only
as far
able
as you
to
want.
see this amount right now. Okay, got it.
And yeah, to Chris's point, any subgroup that is represented above 10% or 10% above will be listed in each metric.
I guess what I'm getting at is I feel like we never have this discussion because we get this data set. And so maybe, but we want to get this
part of our agenda.
to.
Maybe if we get rolled into the agenda conversation once we have the information.
Once it's made public. Sure.
I mean, there's a pretty big gap between the races and, with girls and boys' response to these questions.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
Yeah, that's good.
We can have a return when
Yeah.
that data is available.
And another one that I don't see in this chart is the considered suicide, and that broken down by
Yeah.
gender and race, and it's pretty alarming, like,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah, and that metric is only for 7th grade.
yeah,
Yeah, and it's high. Yeah. And,
Does it track with chronic sadness?
yeah, so it's less than chronic sadness by about 7 points, but it's, chronic sadness is at
yeah, it's
23%. And I believe, let's see if I did write this down. I think it was about 16% for, considered suicide.
The other thing I think that's important to point out is that if you remember, Erica came to the board in June and asked for some changes in her schedule. So she did see this and put some of these trends last year. So she's got an advisory every day for next year. She's doing a later start. She had a lot of parties. So there were some changes that she's making to BIS because she started seeing some of these things throughout her school day too. So BIS is going with some forward thinking for this year. To hopefully look for some changes.
And then I was also thinking it might be helpful to see that there are a bunch of gender identity questions that are asked. That
Sure.
it might be useful for us to,
Yeah, so
that the kids are answering.
So again, it's only for 7th grade.
Yeah,
And
I know.
the way, there's a lot of different categories, so I won't go through all of them. But 75% of our 7th grade students identified as straight and 25% identified as something other than straight. And that included the category of I don't know, but some of those percentages are pretty low, so, yeah. But they'll be available when,
Yeah. I really appreciate you going around the state every time. And now I better understand why we always get, why we get this.
yeah, and I do like the idea of doing that more.
I mean, are enough of you interested that when the full data is reported to have it gone through in a different lens?
And I guess we can see that last year now on the.
Right.
on the
Yeah,
website.
it's
Yeah.
public on the website.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah, which is what we see. Right. Same thing.
I scored hearing it. I was gonna wait till board request items.
And just to bear in mind, and I'll come to this on the very last slide, is there's 2 different types of ways to view the data. There's a dashboard, which can also show you trends and also show you trends of different schools and different districts and counties. And then there's also the report that we get, which breaks all of this down for our schools. So just to keep that in mind. So this is the last slide with data on it. This is, I thought I put this together. I don't think we've done this really in the past, but this is cohort trends. I just picked a few, what I thought were kind of key metrics that actually had as close to apples metrics as we could find, or as I could find. It's not perfect, but you can see their school connectedness. So in 2019, 2020, those students were in 5th grade, and we have effectively the same students in 7th grade in 2021, 22. Now, of course, it's not exactly the same student population, but this is as good as we can get. So school connectedness went down a little bit. Anti-bullying went down quite a bit. This is an interesting one. Lifetime alcohol or drug use went down quite a bit. So It's hard to really say, pinpoint why that might be.
So isn't that because of what you already pointed out, which is that in the seventh grade, they don't ask lifetime, they ask within the last 30 days, so actually they're not the same question.
So actually, I did find this metric.
So they do measure both.
This one did measure, and I believe this might have been a new metric for this year, for the seventh grade. Yeah, so I did find this one. And they do match up. And then mental health doesn't match up quite perfectly, but frequent sadness at 9% and experience chronic sadness or hopelessness at 0.3%.
Are there any, in the anti-bullying climate, obviously it's pretty big deterioration, are there differences in how the question was asked, or are they relevant?
No, it's really basically a sense of that your peers or the adults in campus are actively trying to prevent or stop bullying. So either prevent it before it happens or stop it while it is happening.
This sort of leads to a question I have. Have everyone said a lot about some of the great things that are already happening to get ahead of this, and changes happening at BIS, social emotional learning happening in the classroom, new hires. Do you have any, can you share any things that the faculty or staff at both BIS or the elementary schools plan to do in addition to what they're already doing, like perhaps in the area of anti-bullying?
Well, I know this is a big part of our SEL program, and so that includes like there's a second step for our lower grades TK kindergarten first last.
Second step at BIS as well.
Yeah. I know we have zones of regulation, I believe. We have for the younger students TK to first grade, we have promotions. So we're, and some of these things are pretty recent. And teachers are still implementing some of these curriculum. So I know for sure those are district-wide initiatives in terms of what's going on in the school sites. I can't really speak to that. But
Yeah, I think it's wise not to comment on something the teachers and the principals haven't seen yet as far as what they're doing, but so the fact that we're seeing a preview of data that hasn't even come out yet.
I assume that they.
So they still need to digest this. And I think then do that.
So they have access to this data now, but they just came back.
Principals.
Yes, but they just came back from break, and so this is data they'll need to be looking at, before long, but it's not something we need to look at. So this is how you would access the public data. The top link is the link to the dashboard. So that this is public, and you would be able to search for Burlingame. And you can look at different districts and counties. The next one down is the reports. So that's the report that has the disaggregated information in it. And then the third link, survey modules available. That's actually a link to the surveys themselves. And then the final link is interpreting and using results. They don't release this guidebook every year. So the latest one is the 2016 and 17. So, any other questions?
Maybe just a comment. Just from the colors and the scores, my initial reaction was that this was a pretty, negative trends. This is really a question for you, Nate. It's just a comment. Okay. And I think I have a better understanding now. I feel like COVID had a lot to do with the individual years, and feeling safe at school gets confused with being safe from COVID and so forth. And people being at home versus in school, I think it had a lot to do with that. I think understanding how we did relative to the other districts and the state will be really helpful to understand if this is something we need to worry about as a Burlingame school district issue, or if this is a larger issue that we know everyone is looking at. So,
and it can be both and, right? So So, I mean, one thing, as soon as you said that, my mind went to, as an English teacher, creating my essays with a red pen, which I stopped doing, right? So maybe we need to think of that, because I know that you had probably an immediate emotional reaction to saying red versus green means bad, read everything bad where it's red. So I just was thinking about that as you were starting to speak. The other thing is that, so like the sadness metric for middle school, we know that kids in middle school, that metric goes up. That's not something that's shocking us to see, but it doesn't mean that we should always be working on it, because it's huge, and we know that that's a really difficult age in maturation and for social emotional well-being. I also am not thrilled. I don't think any of us would be thrilled that it pretty obviously shows that anti-bullying, we know how big that is in elementary school, but it looks like maybe it needs to be a little bigger at BIS. So I mean, we both and should, I think, be. I mean, there's reasons that this is showing up the way it does, but it doesn't mean we have to be happy with. But all of it's showing
And
up.
I think the same what you're saying. It's like, you know, you tend to get a little more sad as your hormones change, and you know, you're struggling with a lot more about yourself, and it'll show in the data, as well as I think with bullying, I think there will be maybe an increase in children trying to push boundaries more when they're in 7th grade versus 5th. And so there's
Just a little.
yeah, just a little, and it'd be interesting to see those gender differences. But just, so I think there are some, like when I was looking at some of the things that, we saw that in 7th grade, it seems a lot worse than 5th, but it does match a kind of developmental expectation, that you would see those kinds of things happen. Not that we shouldn't try to address it, but I also think that you can do what you can, but there are just realities of just maturing and hormones and
Sure.
how.
But some of these trends are within 7th grade.
Yeah,
numbers
I'm just
across the
meaning
years.
between
Yeah.
5th to 7th.
Yeah, for sure.
So a different presentation, and maybe using the dashboards themselves, instead of us trying to encapsulate them for you and then doing a look, and I think also a comparison, maybe countywide. And then also, depending upon when that's done, perhaps a principal or two speaking out about how they're using the data.
The other thing is too, is remembering not everybody does checks.
Right.
So it's not necessarily that not everybody in the county even does checks.
Nope.
Right,
So that's something to take into consideration.
some use Panorama.
Yeah.
For instance, that's another option. It also is not required.
Some use nothing.
I was gonna say something.
Right, that's something that we need to remember.
Right, so, and
We
some,
choose to use it.
some districts do it every other year. For things like the tobacco use prevention mitigation grants, which is another 2 years, so, it's not a complete picture.
But it is the most widely used one in California.
Yes,
Right. So we do have a state body of regulators.
it's as good as we can get.
And I would actually advocate for also comparing to state numbers, because it's always shocking.
Yes.
I think, just comparing to our county, you don't get quite the effect.
We're a bubble. Yes.
The whole county is a bubble.
Good bubble.
Yes. a
Yeah.
good bubble.
Of course. Under any other kind of bubble.
Any more questions for me? Thank you. All right, 16C, first read of board policies and administrative regulations.
All right, good evening. I am bringing forward numerous board policies and administrative regulations this evening under educational services, including multiple that have been brought forward through our special education department and our special education local plan area through San Mateo County Office of Special Education. Many of them are just legal updates that are aligning with updated goals and our comprehensive plan, which does have to be held through our SOFA. They are coming forward for first read tonight. We are also bringing forward an updated admission one with regards to ages, updating our absences and excusals. The rest of them are special education. This is just a first read. There are some, typically we cut out our ages to say like preschool through 8th grade. grade. However, due to some of the reading, I did leave it for preschool through 22 because they do have information about graduation. When I tried to reword it for preschool through 8th grade, it sounded funny based on special education law, so I did leave it through 22. Are there any questions or any updates the board would like regarding this?
I have one question about policy 5111 admission. For documentation for proof of age, one of the acceptable forms proposed is a duly attested baptism certificate. Is there a way to make that more inclusive for those families that can't get one of those certificates? Is there other stuff we could include?
We can, it is one of the legal components that they can give us. Oh, you're looking at the administrative regulation. Switch over.
Are a lot of other ways though.
Right, they can do a passport, they can do.
No, most of them were official government documents. This was the only one that stood out to me as not.
Yeah, it does say,
Yeah.
but it does say when none of the above documents is obtainable in the affidavit. of parent, right? That's not Burlingame.
It is something that we can absolutely take it out, or we
Well, I
can
wasn't
alter
proposing
it, or.
take it out. I was just saying to add more to open other pathways. I don't know what those more would be. I don't have that specific knowledge.
What does it entail to get an affidavit?
And that,
That's
so,
just a signature saying I swear it's true.
and it's usually notarized, and we fill for the little bubbles and all of that thumbprints and
I've seen other faith-based documents.
Yeah,
other faith-based documents.
much worse.
Duly attested other faith-based documents, we can absolutely change that language.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Is that a request of the board?
Sounds good.
Okay.
Instead of baptism, you're saying faith-based. Faith-based.
Of birth.
I don't know. Maybe they have one.
I would imagine almost most new students show a birth certificate. Do we have percentages on that? Yeah, I guess off the top of your head.
So some don't have a birth certificate, but most, yes.
Any other comments about the Ps and ARs? Okay, that's a first read, which means we'll see it again next month.
So second reads will be on consent, so with any changes that the board's requested, reflect.
Which doesn't mean you can't comment on it again. if you
Correct.
want,
Yes.
But it will be not part of open at first. Okay, item 17, A, champions presentation.
Unfortunately, Melissa was not able to join us this evening in person, so she will be presenting via Zoom and be available to answer any board questions after her presentation.
There she is. Hey, Melissa, just wave. This is, I know the board hasn't met you yet. Good to see you.
Hello. It's so, hi, I'm Melissa Josted, the area manager for Champions. So sorry I'm not able to be there in person, and so thankful to the board for allowing me some time to give you a Champions update. I'm going to update you on our summer Champ Camp, share some details around the upcoming school year, and give you an update on the tuition assistance program. I am super excited to start with sharing some of the details around our Champ Camp. We have been operating over at Franklin Elementary and Washington Elementary. The kiddos have been spending time moving their bodies, practicing STEM skills through hands-on activities, buddy up with friends to practice teamwork, and discovering new things about themselves and the world. Some of the best quotes that we have heard from our kiddos: "It's so fun here and we do a lot of activities. I love the projects we are making. My friends and I like the toys in the play area." And my favorite has been, "I like the teachers. They always help me and they always take care of me." Our students have been excited each day to come in with the prospect of creating something new. They come in asking what projects they're going to get to do that day, and then they jump right into the activities that we have laid out on different tables. Some of the most exciting ones that they have shared with us have been creating arcade games, building roller coasters, making slime, which is one of my favorites, creating personalized sea creatures, designing illusions, and making 3D salt art. We do weekly water play days and wheels days, which are always a hit for the staff and the kids. The Mr. Softy ice cream day was probably one of the best days that they have had this summer. And they are super excited for an upcoming visit that we have to wrap up our Champ Camp. We are having a visit from the Wild Mind Science Learning, where they can learn about animals of the rainforest. We very much believe in meeting kids where they are at every minute of every day. And one of my favorite stories that I have heard from our team over at Franklin, at the beginning of the summer, we had a kiddo who quietly reached out to one of our teachers and said that he was experiencing stress and frustration, and he didn't know how to get out of his body. He didn't know what to do. So our teacher let him know how frustration and stress is a normal part for everyone at any time. Our teacher told this child that they actually have a little stress toy that they use when they're feeling that way. He was blown away. He had never heard of a stress toy and wanted to learn more. So our team stepped right into action, and the next day, they offered one of the activities for any of the kids who wanted to join to be able to create their own stress toy. The kids loved it, and they all got to create their own stress toy. But what was really cool about that was the conversations that opened up with the kiddos, being able to share their feelings and connect with each other and understand that they all experience these feelings, and it's okay to talk about them. Is it possible to go to the next slide, please? Very excited. I can't believe we are already here, just a few short weeks away from the upcoming 22-23 school year. So I want to provide just a few updates for you on what our Champions program will look like. Next slide, please. Our curriculum. Champions provides a fun, interactive, hands-on STEM curriculum with focus on the whole child: academic, social, and emotional development. We utilize a lot of project-based learning. What I really appreciate about the project-based learning, sometimes it can be a week, but a lot of times the kiddos get so involved that will ultimately go even past that week just because they're so engrossed in what they're doing. We have themed curriculum that allows children to explore a variety of different topics and activities. We support children's social emotional development using Harmony's Meetup Buddy Up approach. We have physical fitness activities, homework support, clubs that are created by the kiddos, and special projects. Next slide, please. As we have all come to understand the importance of social emotional learning, our staff uses Harmony resources to provide relationship building strategies that foster stronger friendships and communities by helping each student understand and appreciate the diversity of others. We have Meetup Buddy Up activities, which provide meaningful community meetings, as well as relevant one-on-one interactions. We have Quick Connections, which facilitate meaningful interactions between peer and whole group activities. And our themes include diversity and inclusion, empathy and critical thinking, communication, problem solving, and peer relationships. I am really excited because this year we will be offering Brigance for all kids under 7.5 years old in our 6 locations. Brigance is a screening assessment that helps us measure and track children's development progress in our programs by measuring physical, language, academic, and social emotional milestones. It also allows us the opportunity to be able to partner with our families in their child's development journey. Next slide, please. Now I have some updates to this slide because when I turned this in, we had a certain amount of families that had gone through the process. So I'm definitely excited to share an update on where we are as of today. With our tuition assistance program, Superintendent Chris had a vision under the interest of equity to allow more access to serve the people in the Burlingame community who are underserved. When I came to Burlingame School District, I was literally blown away by this program. I had not seen it in our other districts. I am truly impressed by this. And now, based on Chris's vision, other districts are looking at similar models to align with. Last school year, there were 17 families under the Group 2 model, 19 under the Group 1 model. This year, so far, we have 3 families under Group 2. We have 9 under Group 1, and there are more families continuing to click on that link to see if they qualify. This system is set up in a way that will help families to quickly see if they qualify, and we are so thankful to the district for making this process not only happen, but making it a really smooth process for families as they go through. Next slide, please. Here is not only the Champions Family Support information, but I wanted to make sure that everybody has my phone number, my email. I respond to text, phone call, email. It is really important that everybody knows that Champions operates on a continuous improvement model. We are always open to feedback, myself, my team, everybody. We're just so honored to be a part of the Burlingame School District, and we want to continue to grow and develop and to meet the needs of the community. Next slide, please. And I'm here for any questions that anybody might have.
Really quickly before general questions, Melissa, can you tell us how many students participated in Champions before and after school care last year?
I would have to get that number for you. I'm so sorry. I can absolutely get back to you with that number.
Okay, it was at all 6 sites, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and how many are participating in the summer program?
Right now, it's around 35 over at Washington and just under 50 over at Franklin. We've had families that enrolled. What they really appreciated about our summer program is they can do it on a week-to-week basis. So a lot of times those numbers fluctuate, whether or not they want to take a vacation, go somewhere else. So those numbers can fluctuate throughout the summer based on that weekly tuition.
Great. And just 2 more questions so I have a clear understanding. Everybody has an equal understanding of the program. So I would like to get the numbers of last year, but if we have several hundred children participating across the district, and we know between 20 and 30% of our kids can't afford full tuition, what do we think might account for the fact that so few are actually getting the program for free based on income verification?
Can you ask that again? I'm sorry.
Yeah, so if only 9 kids last year got free Champions, but we know that 30% of our kids actually need free Champions and several hundred participated, why didn't we have 30 or 40 or 50 kids?
So what's not included in those numbers, we also have provided full scholarships to families as well. So there has not been, we didn't include that under that Group 1 or Group 2. But what I really appreciate, and I can share this for this year, not a single family has been turned away. We have been able to fully scholarship. Our goal is to have every child who needs us in our program. And so we do whatever we can to make that happen.
Right. So yeah, and that's really important to not just me, but I think the school district. So if we can get the numbers from last year and the ones that we have are paying for 100%. Yep. As well as Group 1 and Group 2, which are scales based on their household income as verified by the district, that would be really helpful.
Okay.
So that we can get a better idea of the percentage of our community we're giving access versus how many are participating. And then maybe some thoughts from you on ways to reach out to those families if that number doesn't look like it's representative of our district. Okay. How to make it better.
Yeah, I can absolutely get that information to you. I can share. Just even last week, there were 3 different families that had reached out to me, just really nervous about being able to get in for that tuition assistance. And all 3 have been met with our scholarships. So awesome. I can absolutely, it's one of my favorite things about our company. We don't want to turn any child away at any time. So I can absolutely get back to you with those last year numbers.
Great. And then if we can get an update this year, I would say maybe at the end of September of the participation numbers and the different rates that folks are paying, as well as if there's any wait list at any sites. I know those are all important issues for the district as far as the daycare provider.
Oh, absolutely. I can share with you right now. We have been opening up the wait list for every kiddo, which has been really, really special. And I think one of the reasons that we're not seeing as many yet for the group 1 and group 2, a lot of families are waiting till the last minute to be able to click on that link. But luckily that process is so streamlined that once they do, it goes pretty quickly. But I can get you an update at the end of September.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Just to clarify on the group 1 pricing, that there are specific guidelines that have to be met, just as you would qualify for free and reduced through income verification. So sometimes families cannot produce that information for us, and that is when Champions offers them full scholarships. And the difference is the group 1 pricing would be they pay $20 a week, which Champions, if the families cannot afford that, they also waive that $20 a week for those families. And Champions, which Melissa didn't mention, is that they offer free childcare during all of our PD days to our employees, even if their children do not attend Champions.
Yes, we sure do. We're very excited. We're actually, for the 3 days before school opens, we're technically closed as we get ready for the new school year. And we are so excited to open our doors for the BSD staff while they focus on professional development.
Anyone have questions for Melissa?
I have questions, but before I ask, is there a way to increase the volume on this presentation? I'm having difficulty hearing it.
Me too, and I have my hearing aid in, so.
Can we move the microphone to the speaker?
So I think it's when it's recording for online, that's why it sounds like it, because she's actually presenting to our online YouTube channel. I don't know if we can get the volume here any louder. No,
Put that mic up to that,
wherever it's
sound
coming
is
out.
coming out.
I will try. I don't know if it works.
Say something, Melissa. Can you say something?
Can you hear me?
Is that mic really on?
It is.
No, I mean, it's not really.
Can you
And
hear me when I do this?
He's in the speaker over here.
She's only in one speaker.
Try again.
Can you hear me?
Maybe a little better.
I have my volume at the loudest and it's hard for me to hear as well. I apologize.
Do you still want
Go
to
ahead,
ask
Dan.
a question?
Sure, I'll try it. So if I seem a little off in our conversations because I'm having a little challenge hearing you. I want to ask about some of the models for next year. Do you have anything planned for families to use Champions part-time? So for example, if I only needed coverage Tuesdays and Thursdays, would I have to pay for the full week, or is there just a part-time program?
That is a fantastic question. So I've actually had families reaching out because the system was not originally set up that way. And the families that have reached out to me directly, I've already accommodated for them. So for example, I have some that just wanted a part-time option. And so we were able to assist with that. And then I had others that just wanted a before school instead of doing the before and after. So every single family that has reached out to me, I have accommodated and we have been able to make it work for them.
And so what is part-time? Is it all situation specific on the family, or will there be a Champions option for that?
So it's dependent on what the family needs. So for example, there's some families, I helped one last week who only needs us for 2 days after school. So I set up different scholarships based on what fits for them. What I really appreciate about our billing team is they're able to work with me to make every single model work for that family, because a lot of times it is individual needs that they have. So each family that has reached out, I've been able to accommodate not only exactly what they want, but they've been pleasantly surprised at how we've been able to do it so quickly. So that's, I hope my information is sent out to everybody, because I will not turn a single family away and we will be able to meet everybody's needs.
And then along those same lines, if the Champions Day generally goes from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. after school, if a family only need coverage for 1 hour every day, because they get off work at 4 p.m. and they work from home, they live a block away, is there an option for that, or would they still pay for the full day, the full week?
Yeah. I had a family reach out 2 weeks ago with literally the same exact thing. I provided a scholarship that was able to assist them to just cover the small time frame they needed us. But what was really great about that conversation with the family, when I set it up for them, I said, if you ever need us for more than that hour, you're already set up with that smaller payment. So if you are running late, don't worry. There's going to be no financial consequence for that. We already have your kiddo in our care, and it will not affect what program I set up for them with that pricing.
Thank you for that flexibility. That's really important to the community. So just so the community knows, and the way to take advantage of those options are to contact you directly.
Absolutely. I respond to text, email, phone calls, smoke signals. I get back to everybody immediately. So yes, they can contact me directly and they will always get a response.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I'll make sure that goes out in the weekly message as well.
Anybody else? Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Melissa.
Okay. We'll move on to item 17B, Hoover Elementary School Drainage Improvements Utility Resolution. Utility.
I get all the fun ones.
That's right.
Thank you for seeing me tonight. While we were doing the work here, our storm drain behind roads of Hoover, we cleared out the V ditch and found that in the bottom of that V ditch there actually was a natural occurring spring. And if we installed the design fix as we were going to, it would have been soil tamped with filter fabric and an overlay riprap about 8 inches to 12 inches thick. And that stream would have undermined our work and would have all come down the hill. We worked with a civil engineer, we worked with the engineers, we surveyed the property and found that our cleaning up the ditch is the right thing, but then we just fill it with riprap. So tonight, we're bringing a resolution of utility to the board, asking for $280,506.60, so that we're able to add 2,000 tons or up to 2,000 tons of riprap on the hillside. It is going to impact the time schedule of the project. We'll be using the parking lot at Hoover through the month of October and into November potentially. We've worked with the site on alternate parking strategies, including some temporary fencing so we can park on part of the blacktop. And there's a couple of street spaces out in front of the school that were designed specifically with a deep sidewalk, so if we could do event parking if we needed to. You'll be using those for staff as well. So tonight, we're presenting resolution 2022-2301, declaring the futility of public bidding for work arising from unforeseen conditions. We have a limit of a 10% contingency, and since this is 280,000, it'll bring the entire contract to $1,077.60. We have met with our attorneys to look at a way we're able to do this, and we're asking for the board's resolution.
And tell us what riprap.
Riprap. It is a big gray rocks that you see along the side of highways and it drains ditches, and they're from 8 inches to 12 inches, and they lock hard when they found in place, so they don't roll down the hill.
Is it manufactured or it's natural stone?
It is natural stone, but it is in fact cut in a way so that it has jagged edges. It is not honed or smoothed in any way. It will allow the water to come up and still have a channel for the water that's coming down.
Any questions for Tim? All right, we have to vote on this. Is there a motion to approve the Hoover Elementary School Drainage Improvements Utility Resolution?
I move to approve.
Dan, is there a second?
I'll second.
Elizabeth, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you. 18A, Resolution 2022/23-6, intent to transition from at-large to by-trustee area election.
Thank you, President Wong. Trustees, this was initially spoken about at our June as well as our May board meetings. The board's intent to transition to by area from at-large elections. Currently, we are at large. This resolution starts the formal process to transition to by area, which then means we have to create maps with public input and eventually approve maps that will be used for our by area elections. Those maps will be updated every 10 years with data from the US Census. So this kicks that process off formally. This is the process that's presented on by Ilana Armorman along with our June.
This question might not be right yet, but would we have to redo these maps in 2031? Then?
The census data comes out in 2031. Since the maps will already be in place, the process is that any changes from the census data actually go to the demographer at the county. They make a determination of whether the areas that we've set have changed significantly enough that we would need to change the maps or not. If it's found that we have to make a change, they can either provide us with proposed changes or we re-engage a demographer to come up with our own changes. Yeah, but they do have to be revised after every census data if it's been significantly different.
So it's the duty of the county office of ed to monitor our lines.
They give us the heads up that it's time to redo them, and if it's a significant enough change in the census data to actually have to.
Any more questions about this? And they can review the next steps if this is approved.
Oh, goodness, good one.
Okay, well-
So the next steps are we will engage with a demographer we've already engaged with, and the board has previously approved a contract with Davis Demographics that once this resolution is passed, they will be taking the census data and coming up with different proposed maps. They usually come up with a couple of different options. In that process, they will be asking the board to hold community engagement meetings. Those are additional board meetings that are already scheduled on this year's board calendar. That's why we have sometimes 2 or even 3 meetings in a month. I know, super exciting, and that is specifically to accommodate the process of the board and the demographer who will be joining us online by Zoom to hear any comments either from the trustees or from members at large that have an interest in providing comment or input on how to create those maps. They will then come up with a number of options for the board to select from, and then the board will select a final map based on input from the community as well as from fellow trustees.
And how does the community provide input?
They come to those open
They come
sessions
to
and
them.
provide, or they can provide input in writing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they don't have to attend. They can send an email, they can send a letter, whatever they would like to do. We don't anticipate, since there wasn't a huge groundswell of interest, essentially the survey responses we did get said go ahead to do it to avoid any potential lawsuit, but no one had any strong feelings. When the board was asked to provide any input, they said that they would go with whatever the demographer came up with. So typically the demographer looks for population blocks that would form a district or a number of districts of majority minority voters. And that would be the basis for creating the map. The districts have to be essentially relatively the same size of population, not geographic. And they usually look for some sort of geographic feature to help define the district. The other thing that we asked the demographer to look at when they start this process is that the city has already gone through this process and created maps which have been accepted. We serve a very small portion of the county that's not incorporated with the city, so it might change it a little bit.
Sure.
I may have misunderstood you. Did I hear you say the board has already decided to go with what the demographer recommends? Or did I misunderstand that?
You can provide information, so the demographer hasn't
Yeah.
recommended anything yet.
Okay.
They won't even actually, they are not allowed to start developing maps until we pass this resolution.
Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah.
It's actually prohibited. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting how this is coming full circle, because when the city council had to go through this process, they actually started with our school boundaries as a starting point to decide on which areas became an area. So here we are. Okay, so we need to vote on this. Is there a motion to approve this resolution to go from at large to by trustee area elections?
I'll move.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second. Thank you, Lisa. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, 18B CSBA nominations for Director at Large for Asian Pacific Islander and Hispanic. Director,
Yes, so we typically bring any call from California School Boards Association to the board to see if there's any interest in submitting nominations for various committees throughout the year. So this one is to determine if there's any interest from the board in nominating a director at large for Asian Pacific Islander or Hispanic.
and it doesn't have to be someone who's on our board, it's just somebody who is a school board member. Yeah, it's Amy Koo, who's actually the Belmont Redwood Shores trustee. She was the Asian Pacific Islander director at large, and she decided not to continue. Just too bad. You know, local person, you know, on CSBA's board of directors. But I haven't heard any names come forward. I don't know if anybody else has for either API or Hispanic. Okay, so we don't have anybody. So this says vote or?
No, it's just telling us whether you'd like to nominate.
So don't have anybody. 18C, final read, board policy, administrative regulation, board bylaws and exhibits.
So the reason that this is a final read is there's no substantial changes. These are just recommended numerical changes from California School Board Association. So these policies would remain the same and be renumbered. And one of them has a slight typo change.
And there were a few typos in the one that was unique to BSD. Last revised in 2014, before I was on. Those have been highlighted to district office, and they have noted the changes. They're very superficial typos, but bugging me nonetheless.
That's the reason that we leave them. It's a check, that's right.
Yeah, so we need to actually vote on this since it's a final read. Is there a motion to approve these board policies and such?
Motion to approve the final read. 18C.
Thank you, Lisa. Is there a second? Oh, I'll second. Thank you, Elizabeth. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Thank you. All right. Public statements related to non-agenda items. Has anyone popped up since the start of this? No, present on. All right. Board requested items. We need to put the request for names. Coming back on there.
We will add that into the list and we'll come up with a date based on when the information is done.
Great. When does it come out? When do they
You know,
usually?
it's publicly released.
I know it was taking a long time.
I'd love to be able to do that.
Yeah, I know. So September, doing the presentation on early literacy, workforce housing presentation by a consultant. So, not sure.
We're waiting for the final information.
Okay.
They did join us the other day on the workforce housing tour. That was one of the folks.
And a nutrition services improvement presentation either September or October. Okay, so in addition to hearing more about the checks data, else?
I was wondering, when will we get updates on the new curriculum that and we have four. So I think you said there will already be updates coming to the board to talk about the progress, training, all that.
Yeah, so our teacher will be trained on math in a couple weeks. And then science in October. They've been doing science this summer. We can bring one in the spring to let you know how that's going, if that works.
Yeah, because this is a lot that.
It's
You
a
could
lot.
hit your, whatever that. How it's going.
Yeah, if we don't do them on schedule, it becomes an awful lot.
Right.
At once.
I mean, so to give you a true update, I mean, they made it to in the spring to say how it's going out and how it's going to the teachers and looking at all of it would be a good, probably late spring.
After we have some time to
I know,
play with
it
it a little bit. And we have a lot of time in the late spring, right?
Right, yeah, that's what I'm thinking, to be honest. Right during testing, we'll be happy to do that.
Shoot for April. Is that something to add on here then? Sure. All right, so anybody, two other people to support Elizabeth's. All right, so let's add that to our list.
We're back on educational topics.
Yeah.
Mural loves it.
I can probably cover those, but I was going to see if we could layer in, when we do the early literacy, presentation, if you could also talk about the science of reading work that you're doing.
Actually, that's part of the early literacy, absolutely.
It is, okay, yeah.
Yeah, oh, okay. Good. So, that's it, right, for board requested items? All right. Item 21, adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn today's meeting? I'll do it. I'll motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
I second.
I'll say Dan seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.